Hi, everybody. I'm Darren Lynch, founder and CEO of Irish Titan, here for another one of our Ecomm Forum whiskey shots. And with us today is Evan Perkins from BigCommerce. Hi, Evan. How you doing?
Hey, Darren. Doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Thanks for being part of it. Thanks for being part of the fun.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me. Awesome to get to come back and see get a chance to chat with everybody.
Yeah. So why don't you introduce yourself just real briefly, what you do with BigCommerce, so that everybody has a little bit of that credibility check.
Yeah, for sure. So again, my name is Evan Perkins. I am on the large enterprise solutions team here at BigCommerce. So I'm a sales guy in the mix. I've been around about 5 years, so kind of a long time for a SaaS technology sales role, but it's been going well, and love the job, love the folks I get to work with, working directly with merchants, and yeah, excited to share any nuggets of wisdom that I can today.
Well, we expect a lot. There's a lot of wisdom, a lot of nuggets. And the 5 years isn't that long. I know what you mean, though, when you say a long time. I've been doing e-commerce since '98. And so one of the ways I've previously referred to that is I've referred to myself as a dinosaur in the e-commerce world. But then I started to realize, well, dinosaur might not be all that complimentary, right? Yeah, exactly. So I've started to rephrase that to grizzled veteran, so which I'm not sure if that's any better.
Yeah, I have no idea what's current.
Right, exactly.
No. Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, you kicked us off at Ecomm Forum this year with your Spotlight talk, and thank you for doing that. The theme of your talk was how merchants can best work with their e-commerce vendors, whether it's an SI or a tech partner. One of the things you talked about is kind of the vendor selection process. But I think that was really valuable. We got a lot of good feedback on that conversation. So let's just kick off somewhere in there with bouncing off of some of your topics, right? So maybe let's ease into it with recapping some of the themes that you mentioned real briefly in your Spotlight talk as to how the merchants can best work with an e-commerce vendor.
Yeah, for sure. So kind of had three main points or three main ideas. And the first was kind of getting connected in the right way. So the point was, instead of just going to a contact form on a vendor's website, like try to reach out, connect on LinkedIn with people, or get an introduction from somebody else in your ecosystem. Like you all have different back office tools or agencies or SIs you work with. If you can leverage an introduction, then you come in as a much more attractive opportunity, which I know isn't the most personal sounding thing, but as vendors sort of rank and score leads and opportunities to come into their system, if you're a referred person, it's always going to go better for you in terms of just getting connected to the right group. Not to dog on the contact forms or inbound roles or anything like that, but in my experience, that can go really well for people. The second point was around the RFP process. I don't generally love RFPs.
Right.
And so there was kind of an argument that instead of being overly formal about that, if you can for sure create your requirements list that you have, but then really share that with a team that you're working with directly, get to know folks, explain it, provide the context, really sort of make it a lot more relational, then I think that can be quite a bit more effective and efficient, because you've got, again, probably the right team really working on it, instead of getting back sort of canned responses that vendors tend to give to RFPs that, we don't know anybody, we don't really know the project. And then lastly, timing is everything was my point. So if you're working with the sales team, they are trying to generate revenue in a predictable fashion. So if you can understand what their goals and metrics are, and how they're tracking against those goals, metrics, what's important to them as the customer, as the buyer, you're probably going to be in a position where you can negotiate a little better and ask for some concessions and some things that, maybe you don't always get. But if you understand, hey, these types of things are important to them and you can help them achieve those goals, then you can go make an ask kind of in return for that.
And those concessions you might not get, you don't know if you don't ask, right?
You don't know if you don't ask. Yeah. I mean, everybody's done the you go buy a car and you can get oil changes and car washes and some service stuff. Like there's always these little things to add in.
Right.
and tack on, not necessarily just discounts on, licensing fees or whatever, but yeah, you don't know till you ask. And if you've done the work and established a relationship, then you kind of, for lack of better phrasing, earn a right to ask. You have the right as a buyer, but again, you're doing that in a broader context of everybody got to know one another, and can be a good honest conversation at that point.
And I think that whether it's a concession you're asking for, not that we're trying to build this whole conversation around concessions, right? But whether it's that or just finding the right fit and negotiating, if not dialoguing as peers, right? As equals, what we're all looking to do is establish credibility, right? As an agency, as an SI working with BigCommerce, we want to establish credibility with our chops, our ability to build and grow e-commerce channels using BigCommerce. BigCommerce wants to establish its credibility as a viable e-commerce platform. I think that what's valuable for merchants and prospects in general in tech sales is it's to their benefit to establish credibility also, right? And that's where the three things you mentioned can help them, particularly like an introduction, right? If they're introduced to you or us through a mutual contact that we know and like and respect, we immediately give them the benefit of the doubt in their credibility as a merchant, as a solid negotiating partner, et cetera.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I like that credibility piece, because again, it typically is viewed that the onus is completely on the seller or the selling party to establish, and initially 100% correct. But I've done this a lot of times, and there are merchants that I work with, customers, we call them merchants here, online merchants. There are customers or prospective customers I work with that it just goes so much more smoothly. And I realize, hey, this person really does, they understand their business, they understand their goals, KPIs, what's going to make the project successful. Sometimes you don't know that, and you're trying to figure out what that is, particularly if you're new to e-commerce. But it's nice to work with a team that either has that, clarity around their own vision, or people that are teachable, and say, hey, you guys are the experts in this particular category. Like, what should we do here? It really helps the conversation.
Right. Yeah. The more a prospect or a client, for that matter, knows their business or knows that they don't know their business, either of those are okay. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the ones who think they know their business that don't, a little bit of a red flag, right?
Yeah, definitely. It just makes the discussions a lot harder going about it that way. So yeah, that's a really good clarifying point. You know it, or you don't know it. Both those things are okay.
Right. A little bit of a riff on the When Harry Met Sally. You're the worst kind. You think you're low maintenance, but you're high maintenance.
Yeah, right.
So we try to keep these whiskey shots brief. We covered a lot of ground pretty briefly there. Evan, is there anything you want to leave the audience with? One takeaway. Yeah,
I mean, the takeaway is just personalize it as much as you can. Somebody I noticed in the Slack, kind of the Slack, chatter back and forth on the RFP point in particular, somebody said, hey, it seems like what you're suggesting is just another flavor of RFP. And I forget who it was. I think it was the VP over at Sezzle said, she clarified and said a little better than I was saying it when I was doing the talk. And it was, I think the whole point is to make it personalize the experience. And so that to the extent that you can, or you want to do that, I think knowing, it's a group of human beings. If you can establish a good professional working relationship and get to know someone and personalize that experience, it's going to go much better than having this sort of, me versus you or us versus them mentality. Everybody can work toward a common goal. And if you establish what those things are early on, and get a good relationship with the vendor you're working with, I think you'll get a much more fruitful conversation and hopefully fruitful product from all those discussions.
Make it personal. That's great advice. And then your three themes were what again? Just as a quick refresh.
Yep, it's a quick refresh. Leverage an introduction. Make a good first impression fuel. So leverage an introduction or connect directly with senior folks at the vendor, via LinkedIn or some other network. Skip the RFP if you can, and make that a personalized experience in terms of requirements review. And then timing is everything. So leverage that timeline. Get yourself a good deal.
Excellent. Well, you got us out of the gates at Ecomm Forum 2021 in great fashion. Thanks for being part of that. Thanks for all the support over the years. Looking forward to work with you going forward. And thanks for getting a whiskey shot out of under our belts today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Super fun to be involved, and we'll look forward to doing it again.
All right. Thanks, everybody. More whiskey shots to come. Sláinte.